everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. We've got a couple of broken lawnmowers we're going to have a go at today, so let's get started. You can see the machine here. The model is LGTH22V48, which you can figure out means it's got a 22 horsepower V twin and a 48-inch deck. So previously, the other day she called me up and said it wouldn't mow. I went over there and I could see it had pitched the belt. So I put the belt back on it, set her loose. I did tell her, I said, look, this belt is in bad shape. You better start looking for a new one because I don't know how much longer it's going to last. Well, you can see there how long it lasted. She said it went 2 trips around the yard and now the belt is broken. But we have a new belt. She got it at one of the big box stores. These are pretty popular machines. A lot of the big box stores sell them. So we're going to go ahead and change the belt on this. First thing we're going to do is pull these two covers off. The job of these is kind of twofold. Number one, they keep your legs and stuff from getting caught up in the belts. And number two, I kind of think they actually act as a guide to keep the belt on the pulley. That's handy. The decal for the belt routing is right there on the deck. I think it's also on the package for the new belt too. Yeah, it's on there too. So even I will have a hard time screwing this up. So we'll get our old belt out. You can see it was a tore up mess of a thing. We'll just get that out of here. Now, anytime you're working on a lawn tractor or even a bigger, like a zero-turn mower, or if you've got a belly mower on a compact tractor, and it pitches the deck belt or breaks it, you just want to make sure that everything under here turns smoothly without a wobble. See, look at this here. Well, that might be because that's jammed against it. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. This here is that puts the tension on the idler. So what will happen is if you get an idler like this with a bad bearing in it and it starts wobbling around, that will pitch the belt. Also, sometimes some of these decks have little pegs that stand up to help guide the belt, and those things will get bent or fall off, and it'll let the belt start bouncing around and it'll break or fall off. So far, everything on this side looks good. So we'll move over to the other side and check it out. Yeah, so everything seems okay on this side too. Once you've got the routing all sorted out and you're happy with it, you pull the lever to put the tension back on the tensioner. And now you can see we've got a big problem here. This should line up kind of with the center of that, and it doesn't. Look at that. This pulley, even though it runs nice and smooth, it's tilted over like that. I have a funny feeling that this spindle housing is broken, is our problem. We're going to have to take the deck off. How the heck do you do that? Okay, well, we're going to start by releasing that again. Take the belt off the engine. I think this is probably going to come off just like my John Deere. Look, there's a clip there. Let me reach in there and get that clip. Now you can see here that this thing, not good. So this spindle casting is probably busted. We're going to have a look at it and see what we can find out. First thing we'll do is get the pulley off. Because the spindle housing won't come out the bottom with the pulley on. Now we'll flip it over and take the blade off. Now we'll take the blade off. And then we can flip it back over and take out the 4 bolts that hold this spindle on. Also of note, which I think may have contributed to this problem, and I never realized until now, this gauge wheel is missing. Or anti-scalp wheel. So this would maybe kind of let the deck hang down a little bit extra in this corner. and let the blade catch, you know, whatever, tree stumps, rocks. I bet you'll find if you look at this blade that it's all bent to hell too. Yeah, see, look at that. Whatever it hit, bent it all to hell. Four bolts now and this thing will drop off. And a lot of time these bolts don't come out because they're the like a triangle shaped thread, and they actually roll the thread into the casting as you install them. So we'll see if they come out. Ah! No, broke it. Ah! Broke it. Ah! Broke it. Ah! Broke it. Yeah, and you can see there it's all smashed to hell. All four mounting ears are busted off of it. So we need a spindle. Let me go look and see where I got to get one. We've got the blade now in the hydraulic press, and we'll just straighten it out some. I already straightened out the other end. We're not exactly we're not mowing the greens at Augusta National with this thing. It mows at country properties. Well, got to be careful. Apparently they'll pop out. It's just because they've got that little curl on them for mulching. Let's try that again, shall we? I'll hang on to it this time. Yeah, that's pretty good. While we wait for the parts for this to show up, we've got this to monkey around with. This belongs to my friend Pete. It was dead for ages and ages and ages. It came up here. I got it going. It was working fine. It sat for a couple of weeks and then became dead again. So we're going to find out what's happening with it. It's a fuel issue. It was a fuel issue last time. We had to go through the carburetor and got it working. Now it's totally dead. I don't even see the primer working now. It's like there's no fuel at all in the carburetor. So we're going to find out what's going on with this. First thing I'm going to do is squirt a little ether in there and see if it'll crank up. Okay, let's see here. That's the inlet of the carburetor right there. Okay, so there we have it. We know it's got spark. We know it should run if we could get fuel into the cylinder. So we're going to get into the carburetor and see what's going on. First thing we're going to check is if we have fuel flow in the system. I already checked. The fuel tank is about half full of gas, and I smelled it. It smells good. So what we're going to do is pull the fuel line off the carburetor, put it in a can here, and see if we got any flow. What I've done temporarily, I've choked it off. You just put a couple of old pieces of fuel hose or something on a needle nose vice grip, and that'll squeeze off this hose without wrecking it. So I'll get the clamp off, and then sometimes these come off easier than other times. Hang on, let me get a tool. I just pushed it back a little bit with a screwdriver. Let's see what we got here. And you can see there is fuel flowing. Next step, we're going to pull the carburetor off. All of these are going to be slightly different. You just have to kind of pay attention. So this is the balance spring, or the return spring. That's attached to the, you see here, to the governor arm. That's what balances against this. And then this, I believe, to get out, you turn it all the way, and then pop it up. Now, our carburetor could come off. So we can see there, we drained it. The bowl on this carburetor was completely full of fuel. So let's find out what's going on inside here. Oh, that's tight. We'll cheat a little bit. Let the studs hold it. There we go. I got a funny feeling we're going to find a bunch of junk in here or something stuck. They're very simple little carburetors. Not really too much debris in it. We'll take the float off, and I kind of wonder if the needle valve is stuck or something. Let me get a little pair of pliers. It does seem kind of sticky in there. We'll see what we can do about cleaning that up. And I'm going to see if I can get the main jet out of this thing, and we'll blow that all out. So you can see down in there, we removed this with a flat screwdriver. There we go. Everything looks good. So we're just going to get some compressed air and blow out all these parts and see where we go from there. All right, I've got everything blown out. I'm going to start by screwing the main jet back in. I truly didn't really find anything too horribly wrong in here, but I've got this all sorted out and have the float level set. You see, kind of perfectly level. That's pretty much a good float setting if you don't have a speck in front of you. And then what we got to do is make sure this seal is in the groove all the way around, because what happens when the fuel gets at this crappy, cheap, whatever it is they make these seals out of, it swells up. So this seal actually ends up being bigger than the groove that you're trying to get it in, and it makes it a little bit fun. But anyway, we got it. Now we're going to put it back together. You can see there it's got a little drain plug on it. We're going to put that to the back here against the hinge, the float hinge. And then we're going to put our screw back in. Make sure the gasket is still on the screw or it'll leak like crazy. Okay. Now we can put her back on. Hook up our linkage the same way we unhooked it. Get in there. You have to forgive my old eyes. There we are. And the little spring, the little balance spring, there. Now I'll put our fuel line back on. There, that should fill up our fuel bowl. I'm not going to put the clamp on. Oh, I might as well. We're going to assume we fixed it, eh? You know what happens when you assume. I still don't feel like the primer bulb is doing anything. This should be shooting air, a shot of air into the float bowl. Oh, there we go. I don't know, let's see. We'll give it a pull and see what happens. Well, it started. So this thing usually would have that crackle to it, and then once it warmed up, it would run smooth once you started working it. So I'm going to take it outside now and just push it through a little bit of grass and let it do a bit of work, and then we'll make sure it's going to keep running, and we'll go from there. Well, let's see what happens. So it seems to work okay. It mowed all right. The only problem we have is that blah, 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 blah. I thought that would go away. I was sure it did before the last time I had it when it warmed up. But unfortunately, there's nothing I can adjust on this thing because everything is sealed. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to take it apart again, and I'm going to just slightly raise the level and raise the level of the float, which will make it a little easier for it to pull fuel in, and it may richen it up some and get rid of that surge. You can see there we've raised the float level a little bit, so we'll put it back together and see what happens. Well, it's running better now. It's still not great, but it's better than it was. I wish there was a mixture screws on the carburetor that I could mess with, but there's not. So it is what it is, and that's how it's going to run. The spindle for the Husqvarna deck has arrived. The deck wheel will be apparently showing up sometime this afternoon, but in the meantime, we're going to work on this. We've got the spindle installed into the deck. I'll tighten the bolts once I flip it back over. Now what I'm going to do is remove these other two blades, and we'll give them a little bit of a sharp. I've got the blade in the vise, and we've just got a 4.5-inch angle grinder with a flapper disc in it. That sharpened it up nicely. If your blades are dull, it puts a strain on the engine because it's smashing the grass rather than cutting it, and you'll burn a lot more fuel. Now I put the pulley back on. You see it's got a little bit of a spline, so make sure the spline gets engaged. Then it's got this thick washer that goes over the spline, and you'll see there the first few threads are not there, so it goes down over the, you don't have to worry about jamming the nut onto the splines. This is a specific nut for this job. You can't use a different nut. There we are. I don't know how many ugga-duggas that was, but apparently it was plenty. There was a washer that came with this that I mistakenly put on top of the pulley, when in fact it goes underneath the pulley. I looked across here once I put it together and realized that this pulley was still too low. So we took it apart, it's not a washer, it's a shim. We put the shim underneath there, put it back together, now everything's good. All we have to do now is take the grease fitting out of the old spindle and put it in this. For some reason it came with all the hardware, but no grease fitting. Then we're going to shoot some grease in each one. I usually put 4 or 5 shots in them. This one I'll put a little bit more because it's new. So we're ready to put the deck back under it now. I've got the new belt threaded in. We'll feed the deck through and then get all the linkages attached, and then we'll just be waiting on this wheel to come. It's supposed to be here in the next hour or so. So here's our wheel. It's a universal one, so we're just going to make sure that the bolt fits through the hole in the deck, and it does. You can see from the wear what hole it was in, so that's what hole we'll put it back in. And we just got to tighten her up. There we are, new deck wheel installed. So now if it goes to ground out here on an obstacle or whatever, instead of catching the blade and breaking the spindle, the wheel will hopefully help it roll over it. So now what we're going to do is take the thing out and give it a road test. There we go. I don't know how much it's going to mow because I just finished mowing, but we'll see. All right, success. It seems to mow nicely. I think it can go back home. This thing's been sitting for a few hours now, so we'll see if it'll still start. Because that's what happened to it last time. After it sat a little while, it wouldn't start again. There you have it. We got both lawnmowers all fixed up. They can both go back home now and continue on with their lawn mowing duties until they blow up again. And well, it's all right. We'll fix them again. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. It's been a really nasty hot day, but I had to get these two jobs done. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for supporting our channel, and thank you in advance for coming back again and watching more videos later. Anyway, I'm going to go in now and have a cold shower and watch the baseball game, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, and so long.